want you to know I've practiced this word about 20 times to make sure that I did not mispronounce it.
I have a question. Has anyone ever said with all due respect and then not followed up with a zinger?
His side of the bed. If I come in and I'm on the other side, he will move it. Yeah, that's it.
Which side do you like? With all due respect, you make a good point.
Cheery Oreos! Toasted Oreos!
Mute. He's muted.
I love what he's saying. He doesn't need sounds.
You're so small, squishing your head, Joseph.
You can.
Do it with me, Joe.
With all due respect, you really do look handsome, Bruce. Cheery Oreos! Toasted Oreos!
Look at you. You are insane.
How did I do that?
How did I do
that? You just made the intro reel. Yes, you did.
You're insane.
Well, hello. Happy Thursday, everyone. It is February 4th, 2021. And welcome to Corona TV. I am your host, Joseph Jaffe, and you are in for a treat. You're going to be finding out everything you need to know about how to survive and thrive as a mercenary, as a freelancer, as a consultant. And look who's here. Greg, the mod with the bod. That's what I'm going to be referring to you now as, my friend. Did you miss the ending? No, this is the beginning. This is not the beginning of the end either. This is the beginning of Corona TV today. And I'm sure there are going to be many Clubhouse references, by the way. Greg, my mom is here. Hello, Ma. And very relevant because today is World Cancer Day. My mom has been keeping the red dragon at bay for about 5 years now, and hopefully for a good, many more years to come. So a little shout out to you there, Ma. Well, as I said to you, we're in for a treat today because Sarah Townsend is my guest. She wasn't meant to be my guest, but she very kindly agreed to fill a spot because we had a little bit of a schedule shuffle, and it all worked out perfectly as it was meant to. Well, almost perfectly, now perfectly, because Sarah is guest number, and this is kind of a little crazy, guest number 200, would you believe? 200 guests since this all began. And hopefully with COVID and Corona in our rearview mirror, we will power ahead. And we will just go from strength to strength. Mr. Steve Wax is here. Joseph Jaffe live like him. What a smart guy Mr. Steve Wax is. I think I'm going to have to get him into the studio at some point. Manif says, here to powerful moms. And Tom Morris rushed to get here. And I'm glad he got here on time. Well, as I was saying, Sarah Townsend is my guest today, and then tomorrow, of course. What a treat, what an absolute treat to have Jeff Gotthelf, Tom Morris, Lisa Conn, Faith James, Bob Heyman. I mean, one of them by themselves is awesome, but 5 of them, and Greg, this one is for you, is super awesome, super awesome. Also, a little sneak preview, our guests next week. Karen Freeberg is coming in on Monday, and why I'm so happy about that is I'm teaching a social media strategy course at West Virginia University, and the textbook for my students is Karen's. Karen wrote the textbook. So I decided, let me get the author of the textbook into the studio, and hopefully my students will be watching, not reading, but watching. Michael Farmer and George Tannenbaum coming in next week. Real OGs in advertising. And David Burkus, David is beyond dynamic. I'll wax lyrical, not Steve Wax, but wax lyrical about him next week. But we were actually chatting this morning in a Clubhouse room. And then next Friday is going to be pretty awesome, I got to tell you. I decided to do a health and wellness themed episode. So David Rendell, I think he just completed 300 miles of running in 30 days. Peter Shankman, Lee Oden, Jeremy Tucker, the CMO of Planet Fitness, and my sister, who has a spinning studio called the Psy Club. My sister was guest number 1. She was guest number 1, and she was on the show with COVID. She actually had COVID at the time, and I wanted to help promote her business and her pivot. That interview actually ended up getting both coverage in the leading national newspaper as well as on ITV. So I was so happy that, the catalyst, the spark, the flame was able to be passed along. Well, let's get to some birthdays, shall we? Bob Farnham, Bob the Green Guy Farnham. Bob has been one of the regulars on our after show. Bob, I hope you're watching, and you can decide when you want your birthday song to be sung on air or in our beautiful Zoom after show afterwards. Peter Horan, Jeff Minsky, who else? Marnie Gordon. Happy birthday to all of you. And finally on LinkedIn, Samantha Day, Yuval Atzmon, Terrence Calloway. Have a great day. Well, it is time for our seated soliloquy, and we're going to do something a little different today. The soliloquy is called Super Bowl Advertisers. Entertain us, help us, or get out of the way. It's the Super Bowl on Sunday. But by the way, I didn't write this. In fact, it's not even mine. It is Mr. Jeff Cottrell's. Jeff, you wrote this. You are going to deliver the first guest soliloquy on CoronaTV. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm honored to do this. I'm feeling a little bit like Andy Rooney, for those of you that are old enough to know who he is. And
you know what? And if you're not old enough, I mean, who else? Is there another Andy? Is there another Rooney? Yeah. So just go and look at the archives. Well, anyway, listen, Jeff, I am going to disappear, and you are going to. Let's do that. I'm going to try and figure out how to do this. Wait, I'm going to disappear, and you're going to deliver the soliloquy. How about that?
Here we go. First of all, thank you. This is an honor to be the first guest to do this, but what a year it has been, right? We all know the details. We've been living with it since March, so I'm not going to go through them. But through it all, brands have wrestled with what to say, when to say it, and how best to reflect our feelings in their advertising. When the pandemic first hit, brands immediately pulled their advertising from the marketplace. The move was driven partially by sensitivity and not wanting to say the wrong thing at the wrong time. But part of it was also an opportunity to cut budgets and to save money and to move the funds to the bottom line. But once the brands felt like it was safe to return, we were bombarded with empathy. Car companies, mobile phones providers, soft drinks, beer companies, insurance companies, technology companies, they all told us they understood how we felt. They said, we're in this together. We're in this, you're in this with us. We're going to get through it together. And I was left to wonder, do you really know how I feel? Do you truly care about me? Are we actually in this together? I mean, the empathy played well until it quickly became a bit commoditized, supported by these beautiful montages of images and inspiring music. But even in that moment, they still couldn't resist telling me that they were happy to offer extended 0% financing and a touchless delivery of a brand new SUV. Just what you'd expect from any empathetic friend. Now, I don't know about you, but I can tell you that when the pandemic hit us, I was concerned for my family. I was worried about my parents and my siblings. I watched the news daily and saw images of people dying in hospital beds without their loved ones by their sides, in some cases looking through a window. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but not once did I ever consider how nice it would be to have a touchless delivery of a new car. So as we approach this weekend's Super Bowl, many of us in the marketing world have been busy working with our agencies to come up with that clever commercial that grabs your attention, one that ends up on the top of the ad meter the day after the game and dominates your social media feeds with favorable comments and shares. Yes, they've been on Zoom calls night and day, plotting out the big idea, the right way to pull on our heartstrings, to make us cry, and to manufacture a moment to remind us all of what we have in common. And sure, after the recent inauguration, there's hope in the air and there's optimism in the air. However, we're still a deeply divided country. And I think the worst days of this awful pandemic may still be in front of us. So here's what I hope we'll see this weekend. First, brands need to show restraint from telling us it's going to be okay and that they get us. Because I'll tell you, their definition of okay is very different than my definition of okay. They also shouldn't just assume that we want them to pretend everything is normal either. Like, no one wants to hear about a new car buying app, teeth whitening formula, or a brand new mortgage. And no one wants to hear about floor mats or avocados from Mexico. Wait, that actually sounds pretty good. So put me down as maybe on the guac. But please, no sappy songs of unity, no flag waving, no patriotic rah-rah messages, right? I hope we see brands understand why we're all watching the Super Bowl to begin with. We're watching it to escape. We're watching it, even if it's just for a few hours, to forget about all the things we've been dealing with this year. I hope we see brands understand that we are watching the game to be entertained. Now, look, I get it. Brands just can't resist talking about themselves. I know the NFL and the network make money from the ads, and the Super Bowl offers a huge audience. And I know they're still going to run their ads. They can't resist the big stage. However, this year isn't the time for them to tell us anything. This is a time for them to get out of the way and let us enjoy the game. In short, I tell my fellow marketing friends, it's too soon. So what do we think we'll see? So far, the leader in this movement to entertain us, in my opinion, belongs to Pepsi. They decided to pull their in-game ads instead, focus their efforts on bringing us an entertaining halftime show featuring The Weeknd. And I, for one, cannot wait to see it. This is a great example of a brand understanding why we're watching. And other marketers, you should sit up and take notice. So brands, if you're going to run an ad, please listen to me and understand. We want to smile. We want to fall off the couch laughing. We want to be entertained. If you're showing up to try to create some explicit kumbaya moment, you're only reminding us of the problems in the world. And that's not why we're tuned in today. We want more things like last year's Groundhog Day ad from Jeep, or more Snickers from the folks at Snickers. Also, if you don't listen to us, you're most certainly going to fail. Or perhaps you can do something useful. We'd rather see you use $10 million of your budget for the commercial to do something meaningful. Maybe instead of running a spot for your new SUV, you could take the money and buy $10 million worth of movie tickets from a struggling theater chain and give it to frontline medical workers to use once restrictions are finally lifted. I can't think of too many people more ready to escape reality for a few hours with a loved one than they must be. Or do something nice for someone. This move alone will bring you 5 to 10 times a return in exposure. Use your ad money to do something nice for me, for us. If brands want to play a part in getting us back to normal, then just help us with a simple, normal gesture. Show us a little humanity and humility. Your acts will be judged more favorably than your ad will. And listen, no one's going to remember your Super Bowl ad 6 months from now. They just aren't. But they'll never forget a simple gesture, a sign that shows that you really do understand why we're watching the game to begin with. Make us laugh until we cry tears of joy. This is what we need now more than ever. Here we are now. Entertain us. And if not, please don't bother showing up. Thanks.
Thank you. I am actually sitting on a panel later today with people like Bob Knorp and Jeff Benjamin, and we're going to be looking at the commercials. And I'm going to firsthand use your rubric against it. Jeff, thank you for coming in and delivering the first guest soliloquy ever. I'm sure not the last. It's always good to see you.
Thanks for having me. I hope you have a good show. I'll be watching.
See you later. And that was Jeff Cottrell delivering, as I said, the very first guest soliloquy. But now it's time to bring on Sarah Townsend and a little bit of background about her. Sarah Townsend has spent 20 plus years as a freelance marketing copywriter. In Survival Skills for Freelancers, she shares strategies for tackling the ups and downs of self-employment. The Amazon #1 bestseller has been described as absolute gold, Jerry, gold, a pocket business coach, warm wisdom, and an instant gem, and is available in paperback and Kindle. Since self-publishing Survival Skills for Freelancers last summer, Sarah has been on a mission to raise awareness of the importance of mental health and well-being for freelancers and the small business community through talks, webinars, and mentoring. Please join me in welcoming her to the show, Sarah Townsend, guest number 200.
Woohoo! Hello.
What do I win? What do I win? You win a signed copy of Survival Skills for Freelancers.
It's a great prize.
I'm telling you,
wholeheartedly.
There's no doubt. Well, first of all, thank you for filling in. I appreciate that so much. You were very gracious and you responded very, very quickly. And so I'm only going to slightly embarrass you in terms of finding out some fun facts about you. And here is the first fun fact. So can you believe we actually we found this photo? It's unbelievable. So you qualified for the UK Street Dance Championships at the age of 49, which is completely weird because you're only 39. So I'm not. How did you do this?
I love the picture. So authentic. Yeah, so I've always had a background in dance, and I had actually spent a lot of my life. I did ballet, I did ballroom dancing and Latin American dancing with my grandparents when I was 15, 16. And I did salsa for many years. I taught salsa for a couple of years and stopped doing that about 5, 6 years ago and kind of really missed dancing. So it's before my body kind of started raging against me, and I started getting a lot of injuries. So I started going to a street dance class and ended up qualifying, as I say, for the UK Street Dance Championships at the age of 49. And I have to say, total caveat, that the only reason this could possibly have happened was that I was the only person in that age group to apply. But
no, you shouldn't have said that. I was like, that's unbelievable. There's a message of hope that it's never too late. I was going to follow that up with a this is a message to people saying, hey, listen, if you don't try, you'll never succeed. 99% of short putts don't go in the hole. And you're like, well, I was the first place and the last place finisher.
Well, I don't know this. This is just what I'm assuming. I can't really justify any other way because I really was not that good. But at least I had a go, and I did something that I'd never done before. I actually got a little dance medal. All the dancing I'd done, all the ballet, I got certificates when I was a little girl, but I never had a medal for anything in my life. And somewhere, I wish I'd got it to hand, actually, I could show it off, is this little medal with street dance, whatever category I was in. It doesn't mention my age, fortunately.
I love the story, and you know what I mean. There is a takeaway there, and the takeaway is, age is relative. You're only as young as you feel. Sure, the body starts to play tricks on us, or just get revenge on us when we turn 50. But at the same time, I mean, I love that message, and it is a message of hope and encouragement. Now, before we continue, I do have to say that one of our regulars as well, I happen to see that Stephen Rubin is watching on his 54th anniversary. So he's choosing to spend at least 1.5 hours with us. So congratulations, Stephen and Tony. Amazing. 46, I guess they're almost at the right age to qualify for the UK street dance.
Who knows? There's always a first time, right?
So Sarah, we got a lot to talk about, but first of all, just to debunk all the horrible rumors and myths, I know what SSDD stands for, right? But I didn't know what I actually went and looked it up, funnily enough.
I've never even done that, Joseph.
It was like it's staring at me in the face, survival skills for freelancers, but it does not stand for stop skeletons from fighting, right? So we know that.
Yeah, but it should though, shouldn't it?
I like that, but it's true.
Love it.
That's going to be the sequel to the book. Second edition will inform us how to stop skeletons from fighting. But no, what we are talking about is survival skills for freelancers and tried and tested tips to help you ace self-employment without burnout. We're going to get to that shortly, but I actually wanted to pull this.
Oh.
So this is when we were communicating with one another, and there's something out there that just jumped out at me, and you said I was swift. You said thanks for the link. I'll book now. I was going to follow up at the lunch, but I was swiftly swallowed by a giant wave of imposter syndrome. Oh, the irony! Because there's a whole chapter about it in Survival Skills for Freelancers. Now, I have to say this, and I'm just admitting something. I did not know up a week ago what imposter syndrome was. I'd never heard of it. And suddenly, being on Clubhouse, almost every single conversation is about imposter syndrome. So help me understand what it is, and why did you feel it?
Why do I feel it?
Why did you feel it with me?
It's very closely related to self-doubt, but more specifically, it's that feeling that you're not good enough to do something. Like they're going to find you out, and you're going to get into trouble because you're going to be exposed as being a fraud. So why did I feel it with you? Just as way of background, I guess. We've both been to a lot of the You Are the Media events throughout the lockdown period. Thanks, Mark Masters, for those. It's an incredible community. And I was always aware that Mark talks about you so highly, and I used to be always aware of the CoronaTV episodes that you were putting out there, but I kind of had this really strong sense that every time I saw who you'd been talking to, it was always a guy. And I had this thing, my daughter's at uni studying sociology, and she's specializing in gender. And it's made me kind of feisty on certain things. And I was like, oh, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to drop Joseph a little DM in the chat at the event and say, oh, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring and come and chat to you on CoronaTV. And as soon as I did it, I thought, oh no, what am I thinking? Like the people on there, I don't have a degree. I don't consider myself to be intellectual. I'm not particularly clued up on a lot of subjects, and I don't think I speak confidently about many things. So I was watching some of your previous episodes, and I just thought, what was I thinking? I can't do this. So yeah, I basically kind of backed down, and I think it took me about a month to actually respond to your message and decide, okay, right, I'm going to take the plunge, I'm going to book it. And just by way of context, what you said earlier on about me stepping in at short notice, yes, I did, but I was supposed to be talking to Joseph on the 3rd of April, something like that. And yeah, so it just, having the opportunity to pull it forward with less than a day's notice just took away the chance for me to get kind of frozen into this like fear of failure and messing up and looking like an idiot. So I just thought, yeah, okay, why not? Let's go for it.
There is so much commonality with qualifying for the UK street dance competition at 49, because it does come down to this idea of if you don't try, you'll never know. If you don't go for it, if you don't send that DM. Now, I'd been struggling even several months ago, realizing that there was an over index of males compared to females, and I didn't like it. I didn't want it. I still don't. I want balance and parity and diversity, and I strive for it. And sometimes now I overextend, which means that at a minimum there will never be a week where there are just males on the show. If that happens, because people book, I don't book people for certain dates. I just say, here's a link, go and find a date that suits you. Yeah. And sometimes, but if that does happen, I'll very politely email the 4 males and say one of you has to shift. And that has been a small step. It's not a big one, but it's a small one, I think, in the right direction. So you've done me 3 favors. One is you reached out in the first place. 2 is you happen to be female, which from a content standpoint and a talent standpoint means less to me than the fact that you're awesome. And third of all, you very generously and graciously decided to step in and help me. But here's the interesting thing. I didn't realize that in you doing that, it was actually also helping you take away any doubt or that imposter syndrome. So it's just I think everything worked out the way it was meant to.
Amazing.
So yeah. I'm appreciative. And, now I've gone and brushed up on imposter syndrome, and this is what I actually found out, which is this is imposter syndrome explained with a Venn disguise. So it's stuff I know, stuff they know, and then history of fake moustaches. And so you can actually see, I mean, this helped me understand for the first time. So you've got the, hey, I actually know something for once, followed by the, oh God, they know so much more than me.
Yeah.
I suppose that's always going to be the case, right? Which is no matter how much you know, someone's going to know more than you. And so you have to almost just accept and be a lot, you have to be at peace with who you are and what you know, and be the best at what you can be, and stop worrying about, I guess, what other people think. I guess that's my takeaway from it.
Yeah, and also I think there's a big amount of comfort that comes from knowing that it is so common. I certainly knew that it was something that I'd always suffered from. I remember when I worked for Eagle Star, which was probably 25 plus years ago, and I was just starting out my marketing career. I went down to the Chartered Institute of Marketing, and I was doing a course down there, again, mainly guys and me. And I said something about, well, I don't have a degree, and I keep kind of worrying. And somebody told me about it way back then. So I was only, 24, 25 when I first heard about it. And I was always aware that it's very much a part of that kind of self-doubt, and questioning my own ability is very much a part of who I am. I have the strategies for dealing with it. There are 6 of them that I share in Survival Skills, and that's great. But sometimes I have to, that's the one chapter I sometimes have to refer to myself. But in the process of writing the book, I spoke to over 100 freelancers and self-employed people, males, females, different industries, different types of jobs. And only one person said, I don't consider myself to suffer from it. She said, I prefer to call it winging it. But actually, that's kind of a case of semantics, because that's sort of how we all feel. So yeah, I think it is remarkably common. Tom Hanks, Serena Williams, Lady Gaga, Maya Angelou, Natalie Portman, they're all well-known people who have all owned up to suffering from imposter syndrome in the public eye. So yeah, if they can get it, why can't we?
So now that I know what it is, I would not be number 2 on that list. I'd probably be in the 99. I've never called it that, but self-doubt is something that I understand all too well. And sometimes, and I'll give you an example. When I wrote 0, I thought to myself, hey, why not actually use that? Why not create an acronym? So I was like, Z, that's zealots, E, entrepreneurship, R, retention, and the O, what's the O going to stand for? The O stands for owned assets. Now, I've got a framework. The framework is ZERO. And no sooner had I come up with the acronym, now I'm looking at these 4 things going, well, advocacy, innovation, customer centricity, and the owned asset is just its own category. Suddenly the self-doubt pours in, which is, what if it was another word? What if it was zilch? What if it was, like you've just come up with an acronym which completely could make no sense whatsoever. But how I reconcile it is I trust myself, I trust my gut, and I trust that my process, no matter how chaotic, actually seems to work. But the minute you doubt, it's like a piece of blood, a drop of blood, in a lake filled with piranhas, and you'll be skinned alive. And so I counter the doubt with trust, with self-trust and self-belief.
I love that. Yeah.
So that's how I've dealt with it. And I looked at a lot of great comments coming in. Tom said, Sarah, thanks for showing up with all the rest of us who have no idea what we're doing. As Socrates would say, by recognizing how much we don't know, we become wise. I would imagine that for freelancers, imposter syndrome's got to play a huge role, because they're alone. They're on an island. That's why I chose survivor images behind us of being stranded. You're a lone gunman, so to speak,
Yeah.
Who's going to support you and validate you and quite frankly, even enable you?
Well, this is kind of the point, and I think it's something that a lot of people, when you first go self-employed or you first become a freelancer, you don't necessarily. There's this idea of we are our own boss. There should be some element of being self-contained, being self-reliant, not needing anybody else. But going solo doesn't mean that you're alone, and it's really important to stress that. So it's not coincidence that the chapter about the need for community, where to find your people, and the need for connection is the first chapter of the book. But I just circling back to the fact that I spoke to over 100 freelancers in the process of writing the book. Each of the 8 myth chapters ends with quotes and advice from other freelancers. So they are my freelance community, and they're people that I have met online, almost exclusively online. Okay, a few kind of real life conferences and events that I've been to, networking events before COVID, and that's great. But a lot of my really great freelance friends I've never actually met in real life. And I rely on those people for support, for advice, to answer difficult questions, just having someone to lean on, to talk about, what do you think of me charging this for this project? And how would you deal with this difficult client? Or all those challenges that we face and we think that we're struggling with alone because we are our own boss and we're independent and all these kinds of things. When you found that community, it's a game changer. It really is the difference between that kind of feeling of, God, I'm all alone. I have to deal with all these things on my own, got nobody to support me. And just that feeling of knowing that you're one of maybe 10 or hundreds of thousands of people who are going through the same issues and facing the same challenges as you are. And there's a lot of strength in that. I guess like the strength in numbers thing. So in the book, I suggest 3 strategies for finding your community, which are, and I go into detail on these: networking, co-working, and online communities. But for the purposes of where we are right now, it's got to focus on the online community, hasn't it? And I think that they've really just clubbed together to kind of provide more value than ever before. So I'm talking about things like Facebook groups, Twitter chats, the LinkedIn community, Clubhouse. I haven't dared dip my toe in because I'm very, I've got quite an addictive personality. So if I start getting involved in Clubhouse, it'll become my obsession and I just don't risk it. But things like signing up for webinars and events online and getting involved in the chat. So there are 2 ways. For example, the events that we go to on a regular basis for You Are the Media, there's always a chat. It's always lively, but you could choose to sit back and not get involved and just watch the talk and not interact with other people, but you're not getting the same experience out of it. I personally actually sit and write down a list of people who kind of write interesting comments and note who's there, and then send them a personalized LinkedIn request after, because that's one way in which I grow my freelance community.
I really like that quote. Going solo doesn't mean going alone, and that and that dials up with community. But community, as I flashed it on the screen, is the 3rd point out of 5 great recommendations that actually speak to this idea of what to do when you're at home right now, because we are stuck at home right now. We are pretty isolated. I wonder if you could talk to these 5 tips for freelancers that are, solo and I solo-lated, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so I would say that these tips are relevant whether you're a freelancer or whether you're somebody who works for a giant company and is used to work, isn't used to working from home and is just faced with that at the moment because of COVID. So the first one is all about how the hell do you avoid all of the distractions that come along with working from home. So things like having daytime TV on, switch that off for starters. How do you deal with the kind of going down rabbit holes in YouTube and spending hours scrolling on social media with the distractions of emails constantly pulling you off task, and even just unexpected, unplanned phone calls when you're supposed to be focused on the job in hand. And then there's even just the practical things like, how do you deal with housework when you're working from home? So yeah, these are just very, very briefly, I'm just going to rattle off a few tips. So personally, I find because I'm a copywriter, I need time to be completely in the zone writing copy. So for me, I use a email autoresponder. I always say they're not just for holidays. And so many people have pinched my idea because it really works. They've even pinched my wording, actually, which is a bit embarrassing because I'll send them an email and then my wording will bounce back with their name in it, which is quite funny. But my email autoresponder says, thanks for getting in touch. I check my emails just a couple of times a day so I can focus on creating hardworking copy for my clients. I'll be back to you soon. So that's it. It's kind of a win-win. So it tells your client that you've safely received their email. It sets their expectation that there may be a delay, but you will get back to them soon. It also signals to them that when you're working on a project for them, you're not going to be pulled off task every few moments with emails from other clients. So they've got your undivided attention. And as far as you're concerned, it'll let you get on with the task in hand without being distracted. If you can't be trusted to stay off social media yourself, I would certainly first off say switch off your notifications, all of them. Maybe even consider deleting social media apps and emails off your phone if that's something you can't be trusted with. But you can get apps. I use one called Freedom, which actually blocks certain websites. If you're having a bad day and you're just really flighty and distracted and you need someone to keep you off eBay or Amazon or YouTube, whatever it is. I personally don't like random phone calls in the middle of the day when I'm on task for the same reason. So I will let my voicemail get it. I'm not afraid of someone thinking, oh, she didn't answer the phone. You know, we're all human. Not everybody can answer the phone at the drop of a hat. So I let it go to voicemail if it's important. Most of the time, it's someone trying to sell you something anyway.
And Sarah, by the way, Tom Morris says that away message advice is gold. And we don't know who this is on LinkedIn, but they said, I'm thinking of coming off all of my group texts and just living with the FOMO. The distraction and hyper connectivity is hurting my focus time.
Oh, absolutely.
So there you go. And we know who Atticus Arts is. Jackie, working isolation is the worst part of freelancing for me. You are the media and online networking has been a lifeline.
Absolutely. Yeah, same for me, big time. It's that has become my community.
All right. So the second point is claim your space. But I know that there is a tomato involved at some point. Have we missed the section of the tomato yet?
No, that's all part of the avoiding distractions. I have to say, I think the avoiding distractions bit is the kind of the most in-depth in terms of tips. I can flick on to the next one, or I can do the tomato shaped timer. Should we do that?
I want to know what it's called the Pomodoro
technique.
Effect?
Yeah, the Pomodoro technique. And it's called Pomodoro because Pomodoro is Italian for tomato, I have since learned. But you don't need a tomato-shaped timer to do this. Someone, I wish I could remember who it was, Ollie. Someone on LinkedIn called Ollie put a post about it recently saying he picked it up from me. He said he generally believes that most productivity hacks are beat word. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to swear or not. I am a bit sweary.
You are allowed to swear if you want.
Okay, so he said that most productivity hacks are bullshit, but
no, but not that word. Any word is fine, but not that word.
He started using the Pomodoro technique and found it's a game changer. So you basically set a timer for 25 minutes. I use the timer on my phone. I use an app called Focus Keeper, which is kind of nice because it ticks quietly in the background and it also is red and it's just quite aesthetically pleasing. But there are loads of different timer apps out there. So you set the timer, notifications off, phone off, TV off, whatever you need to work without distraction, and you focus entirely on the task in hand. And then when the timer goes off, you take a 5-minute break. So the important thing to note when you take the break is to actually physically get up and away from your laptop. So whether that's going downstairs, boiling the kettle, just doing a bit of like stretching, dancing around the kitchen, street dancing around the kitchen, while you wait for the kettle to boil, and then come back up, set the timer again. So you basically rinse and repeat for 4 cycles of 25 minutes, and then take a longer break after the 4th 25-minute stint. And it's remarkable, because anybody basically can focus for 25 minutes at a time. That's kind of the premise it works on. And the way I deal with housework, because a lot of people ask me about this, I actually use my Pomodoro breaks. So my 5-minute breaks, I think, right, okay, next break, I'm going to run downstairs, and while the kettle's boiling, I'm going to unload the dishwasher, or I'm going to stick on a wash. So by the end of the day, all my tasks are done in my Pomodoro breaks, because otherwise you can get to the end of the day and just find, oh my God, you've got this overwhelming pile of household tasks to get on with. So yeah, that's the motto.
It's so good. Kate Lloyd says, I've been using the Pomodoro technique since reading Sarah's book, and it works for me. And we found out who the LinkedIn user was. It was last week's incredible guest, Lauren Griffiths, who is standing up. Also, my brother is watching. So I've got the whole family watching me, supporting me. So keeping it all in the family is good. Amazing, amazing techniques. Let's run through the others, because they're no less compelling. And we already know number 3 is community, which what a great tip, I should say, in terms of this idea of building these virtual community, but real intimacy and relationships.
Yeah, for sure. I think, as you say, we've kind of covered community, but there is one extra thing that I'll throw in, and I think it's really important. I think when you first become self-employed, there's a tendency to see other people who do the same job as you as the competition. But instead of seeing them as the competition, if you see those people as your community and appreciate and realize just how much experience and how much common ground you share, because those people are really often the ones that you need to lean on, and they'll lean on you. And those are great relationships. I've got amazing relationships and friendships with some other copywriters. I have a couple of groups. I have a group through Twitter, and I have another group through WhatsApp with 2 different sections of copywriters, and we're always kind of on hand to support one another.
I'm not embarrassed to tell you that I just got goosebumps with that nugget, that your competition is your community. It's truly a brilliant statement.
Thank you.
So let's go backwards. The one that we didn't talk about yet was claim your space.
Yeah, that's really all about boundaries. And that's something that a lot of people, I think, struggle with right now, because they might have children home, they're doing homeschooling, maybe their partner's also working from home, and they don't have enough space to work. So I'm very aware that when I'm talking about this, that people might be going, oh God, easy for you to say, you got your cushy little office and your nice door that you can shut at the end of the day. And I know that not everybody is as fortunate to have that. But if you can, whether you're just working from a corner of the kitchen table or a small desk in your bedroom, the important thing is to have a space that you can walk away from at the end of the day. So if you can have a door that you can close like I can in here, which is great, mentally it helps to create it helps to kind of create some distance between work and home, some division. Otherwise those lines become very blurred. And the feedback that I've had from a lot of people who are used to having a commute, even if they were commuting to a co-working space or a shared office, is that commuting time was gold, because it would provide some form of decompression. So you'd finish your time in the office, and then basically the time that you were driving home, you'd be processing what had gone on during the day, you'd be thinking about conversations, you'd be kind of winding down and getting ready to get back into home mode. So we don't easily have that. I did hear a lovely anecdote about a guy who goes out of his back door, round the front of his house and back in the front door. I guess a bit like, hey, honey, I'm home. But I think that's quite a nice way. It's doing something that marks the end of the working day for you, because it's difficult to avoid work blurring into personal time and family time if you don't have those boundaries.
It's the first time that I've actually heard the commute spoken of in a positive, constructive light. And I think just like the Pomodoro technique of breaking up 30-minute pods, into 25 and then 5, there is an important, a pivotal importance of being able to draw a line if you can. Like, I don't need to. I've been working essentially as a freelancer, as a consultant, as a solo entrepreneur for, since 2002. But the dangers are that if you don't have your own, I guess they're almost like fail safes, switch off or switch on, things can go horribly wrong, such as checking your email and realizing you've lost an account just as you're sitting down to eat dinner with your family. And depending on your personality, either, clamming up and going into your shell, or getting angry and lashing out. And so I think that is a tip that people are going to take to heart for sure. All right. So speaking of which, whether it's walking around the block and going, honey, I'm home, either way, right? Male to female, female to male, male to male, female to female. Get moving, I assume, is referring to getting up and getting moving.
Yeah, because this, I don't know if you saw, I think it was someone like Rank Xerox, it might not have been them. It was some office company put together this study, and they created the office worker of the future. And it was obviously a kind of very pronounced, just kind of for the shock factor, but it was, she had a really hunched back and bloodshot eyes and sallow skin and eczema and lank hair, and she was overweight, pot belly, all these kind of physical changes that they anticipate are kind of happening to us very, very slowly, because we're spending all our days hunched over our laptops. So in terms of your health, it's kind of the kind of curse of being sedentary is starting to lead to an increase in cases of things like type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and certain types of cancers. And actually being sedentary, being still, not moving, that's kind of the enemy at the moment to health. You heard the expression, sitting is the new smoking. So it's kind of fighting against that and realizing that actually it's not just for your own health, your own physical health, that you need to get up and keep moving. You don't want to get to the, especially when you're my age, you don't want to get to the end of the day and think, oh God, I can't move. I've just been sitting in the same position all day. I'm stiff, I'm achy, I'm just, I've got sore, tired, irritable eyes, because all you've been doing is staring at your laptop. So that's why the Pomodoro break is so positive, because it ensures that you have those 5-minute breaks. Another thing that someone, and I love this tip, someone told me in the process of writing the book, I've always got a pint of water on hand, and I probably drink about 6 to 8 pints a day, no problem, because that's pretty much all I drink. But he said it's a great tip, because if you're like constantly up and down, you're constantly up and down to refill and go to the loo. So that stops you being hunched over your desk constantly. But it's not just for your physical health, it's also for your mental health and your productivity, because it's not enabling you to kind of get the perspective of seeing things. Just when you're in the same 4 walls, it's difficult to get inspiration. But if you go outside, and if you make sure you get outside at least once a day for your daily walk, or maybe you're into cycling like you are, Joseph, like get out on your bike, go take the dog for a walk across the muddy fields, just whatever it is, get outside in nature and take care of yourself. Give yourself that time, that breathing space, the equivalent of the commute or whatever you want to call it. When you get back to your laptop, you will be more productive, more
so good. Oh my goodness, that is so good. Honestly, I'm not just saying, not only should you never have to suffer from imposter syndrome again, but you are the exact opposite of an imposter. You are the Swami, the guru. I mean, these nuggets keep on flying. It's unbelievable. I'm looking at this here. Jeff Cottrell says, Sarah, this is great. You just sold another book. It's set to arrive on Saturday. I can't wait to read it. Just really
I'm dying for a review from you. It's going on my Amazon profile if I get one.
So remember, remember before we actually started, Sarah was like, do you think I can ask Jeff if he wants a book? And he's bought it already, and I'll give him a book and ask him to review it. I said, Sarah, you can ask him anything. You can ask me anything. What's the worst we can say?
Yeah, exactly.
No, I agree, Tom. Sarah is a fountain of insights. Funnily enough, we talk about community. This morning, 6 a.m., I went to the bike, and I was going to do like a 30-minute cycle. And I happened to see it said, one of your friends working out now, a guy by the name of Daron Wesley. And I saw that he was doing a 45-minute power zone endurance ride. And so I chose that ride. I chose the 45-minute harder one instead of the 30-minute one because he was doing it. And so we could wave, virtually to each other, and I could see his progress and gauge my progress relative to his. So it just shows you the power of connectivity and community. And even when we are, my new made-up consulty word, isolated, there is a way to feel very much connected. All right, well, there's one more. I mean, the time is flying. I don't know, how can I slow it down? If I don't turn over the egg timer, maybe it won't. This is my 15-minute Pomodoro. This is my tangerine effect. Let's talk about number 5, keep learning.
Yeah, this is something that I think it's particularly risky when you've been doing what you've been doing for as long as you and I have, I guess, that there's this kind of tendency, if you're not careful, to maybe become complacent and think, I know it all, but you can never get to that point. There are always changes in social media, in technology, in the industry that you work in the way people do things, the way people market their businesses, in sales techniques, relationship marketing. I mean, Clubhouse, yeah, perfect example. And then on Instagram, God knows they are just chucking new things out at a rate of knots with reels and IGTV and guides and yeah, goodness knows. So it's really important to keep on top of things and to keep learning. And that's kind of part of how you become inspired and you remain inspired. You're investing in yourself and therefore you're investing in the success of your business. Something that I say in chapter 2, I think, that if you don't believe it, if you don't take your business seriously, why should your clients? So rather than calling yourself I'm just a freelancer, and seeing your business as just, that exchange of time for money, swapping services with clients, with kind of more than one client. If you step into the shoes and the mentality of a business owner and start valuing your worth, treating your finances separately, saving the equivalent of the tax every month, and all these kind of things, investing in your personal brand and investing in your own development, you're giving yourself, you're kind of backing yourself and giving yourself so much opportunity to succeed effectively. So some of the ways I say to do that is the obvious thing: buy and read a really good book. Listen to.
And by the way, I just posted the Amazon link in the comments at the precise second that you showed the book.
Mind readers. So yeah, I say, like, read. I devour business books. Read, watch podcasts. Yeah, why don't you watch some podcasts? Watch YouTube videos from people who inspire you. Listen to podcasts. Listen to audiobooks. Sign up for webinars, events. Get involved in them, though. Don't just passively watch. What else is there? Learn from people who you admire and who have achieved success in your field and have advice to share. That's kind of it, really.
So I want to spend the last few moments in this segment of the show, and obviously we're going to go to the Zoom after show right afterwards. If you want to interact and hang out with us for about 30 minutes. All you got to do is go to bit.ly/CoronaTV after show. Sarah, this would be a good time to come in with the quote of the episode. And this is the quote. It says, "Jobs are owned by the company. You own your career." Many people have chosen to go out on their own. And certainly it's probably never been tougher to be a solo entrepreneur during these tough times when when in many respects you can't even claim unemployment, certainly not here in the US. There isn't this safety net. What is your advice to freelancers right now in terms of thinking, you know what, should I go back into the workforce? Should I get a job? How can we, and what advice would you give people to be more resilient, to stay the course, and to help make the most of this unprecedented situation?
That's a lot of questions in one. I'm just wondering how to kind of pick out one tip that I can share. I think the nice thing about resilience is the fact that it's not binary. You don't have it or not have it. It's something that you can actually practice and you can exercise. So there's certainly information about resilience in the book. And I actually think if you go to Amazon, the link that Joseph has already shared, that may be a free sample that you can download for Kindle if you have one. So yeah, I think the important thing to remember is that there's no guarantee whether you're employed or self-employed. You could just as easily lose your job if you're employed. So don't kind of see going back to employment as a cure-all. If you're smart and I have to say, if you follow the advice in the book, the intention of the advice that I share is to get people to a position of success, whatever your definition of success may be, quicker and with fewer mistakes. So I'd say it took me maybe 12 to 15 years to get good at the stuff in this book. You can get there much, much quicker and not make the mistakes. It's not that self-employment is harder. It's just that you don't know what you don't know. So when you're prepared and you've got the skills, the techniques, and the advice and the support behind you that you need, you can actually end up getting so much enjoyment from self-employment and actually just really relish being freelance.
No doubt. I mean, there are 2 million freelancers in the UK alone, yet 20% of self-employed businesses don't make it through their first year, and 60% don't survive beyond 5 years.
Yeah.
The odds are not necessarily in the favor of David versus Goliath, but certainly with the right skills, the right survival skills, growth, endurance, prosperity, and success are sure to follow. I have to say that this has just been talk about learning. I learned so much today. And this has been the way that I and a lot of the regulars have continued learning every day through this always on consistent channel. So I want to thank you for writing the book. And I also want to thank you for sharing all of these tips today. We have just a few moments left. I'm interested to hear what you have to say to this week's Corona question, this was a tough one. People are kind of scratching their heads with this one. But if you could go back 1 year to February 4th, 2020, and you knew everything that you know now, what would you do differently?
Yeah, I completely forgot this was coming. And I was chatting to my grown-up kids about this, going, what am I supposed to say to this? Because I feel like it's made me, maybe reflecting on the past year has maybe made me realize that actually I didn't do too badly, because I have had enough sort of mental health and anxiety challenges throughout my life that I know I'm self-aware enough to know what my coping strategy is and to know what I need to kind of maintain my mental health at a healthy kind of positive level. So for me, it's fresh air, exercise, music, and a good amount of sleep, preferably eating well as well. But I think being kind of equipped with that knowledge really helped me get through it, whereas otherwise I probably would have gone to pieces. And also with the benefit of hindsight, I'm really glad that in that period between in the UK when our first lockdown ended, there was quite a lovely period where we were allowed to do things again, and I really, really made the most of that. I don't work Fridays since I turned 50. It was kind of one of my things. So I spent a lot of my Fridays meeting up in real life with a lot of my community. So these people that I was telling you about before that I've met through social media, I met them for real life lunches and Prosecco and chat and inspiration, and it was fabulous. So it's a bit of a cop-out of an answer, but yeah, I think it'll have to do.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think it's a terrific answer, because it made me think of the definition of luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. And even though there was so much in 2020 and still in 21 that is so unprecedented, once in a 100-year effect, I think if you've come into every day of your life, and if you've come into every situation in your life prepared with the wisdom, the experience, the resilience, as you say, that it's not just yes or no, but it's acquired and it's nuanced as well. We can, and we have the ability to adapt, survive, and even thrive. So I think that's a great answer. Sarah, this has just been, and I've said this already, but I'll say it again, this has been terrific. You can find out about, what was it? Saving skeletons from fighting?
Skeletons from fighting.
Stopping skeletons from fighting, or survival skills for freelancers at survivalskillsforfreelancers.com or Amazon. We are going to head over to the Zoom after show. Thank you again. And we leave you with the words from Chuck Norris, who will tell you whether you are an imposter or not.
You are Chuck Norris approved.
Not.
Thank you for watching Corona TV with your host, multiple author, and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. Corona TV is the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing. The after show on Zoom starts right now at bit.ly/Corona TV After Show. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show at coronatv.show. And if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, text Corona TV to 66866 or visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.
In case she's looking. Sarah, have you got that link?
No.
Everybody's waiting for you. Look on the bottom.
Link. I just emailed you.
Look on the bottom of the screen. bit.ly/Corona TV After Show, and it's also in the Google Doc. Everyone's waiting for you.
I got it.
Have you got it?
Yeah, I'm there. Just let me in.
All right, I'm going to let you in.